yag ni nash nash nap ki ya lo yag bella ni ti nash ans nash rugus perker yati paria nash nap nash ki ya lo yag perker ke chele ti to nash dos nu ne de miet ti no ben se le do nash.
Benito's father was a corn farmer, and his mother was a researcher who was working for the Office of Tourism for Monte Alban in Oaxaca. From birth until about the age of 12, they took a special interest in showing Benito how to grow food from the earth, and so they taught him things like photosynthesis, and they taught him about sunlight, and they taught him about rainwater and seed selection. And in time he became a really good farmer. But he knew early on that what he really wanted was to be a chef. And so at the age of 13, a local restaurant hired him to take the corn that Benito grew and convert it into masa, and then convert it into tortilla. And his tortillas were really well received at the restaurant, and he worked there for the time that he was in high school until he graduated at the age of 17.
With the money that Benito made selling tortillas for the restaurant, he decided to start traveling. He wanted to learn about the cuisines of Asia, France, Italy, and the molecular side of Spain. Toward the end of his travels, he landed in San Sebastian, and that's where he got his first great idea.
Benito took his knowledge of farming and married that with what he had learned about cuisine. He decided it would be best only to cook with what he grew himself. So, in his first season, he was able to successfully grow corn, avocado, chile, and onion. Now, using only these ingredients, he created his first signature dish, which on a small plot of land on the coast of San Sebastian, he was able to sell 600 every day amongst a row of fancy molecular restaurants.
So I went to San Sebastian with my friends Tim and Dave, and each of us brought one of our children so that we could teach him how to surf. Coincidentally, it was also where we met Benito. I got my daughter up on a surfboard for the first time on her hot pink board. I pushed her into a little ankle slapper 1 to 2 foot wave. She jumped right up, more of the balance of a dancer than a surfer, but she did it. She rode it all the way in. It made me feel purposeful and accomplished. It was real important for me to get her up on a surfboard. I had been taught by my father how to surf, but not really in the same way. My dad and mom got divorced when I was little, and my dad moved into another home and actually bought a beach house because he knew that that'd be the best way to make sure his 3 kids, his 3 boys, wanted to come visit him. My dad had never surfed before in his life. He's a scientist, a biochemist, and the way scientists do things is they learn by observation. And so my dad, got his 3 boys out there and told us, okay, I've been watching these surfers, and this is how you do it. Well, that wasn't probably the best way to learn how to surf, and probably would have been a lot more advanced, 20, 30 years later, had I been taught, the way that you should be taught, which is through doing. So that's the way I wanted to teach my daughter, and when she got out, that was really kind of the fulfillment of a dream I had. It was a huge moment in my life.
wife and I grew up in a beach community in Southern California, and after we got married and started our family, we knew that we'd want to pass along the surfing lifestyle to our children. So when the time was right, we agreed that it was really important to me, being the father, to contribute to the family by teaching the children how to surf. And that was important for my self-worth, and just that's what I provided to the family. So because my daughter is reluctant and she's kind of gravitates toward her mom, she would want her mom to teach her to surf if she was around. And I knew that the only way to be able to teach my daughter to surf was to go on a surf trip with our friends and just one of their children as well. So the beach day when she learned how to surf was beautiful, sunny, clear blue skies, very glassy ocean, no wind, very small 1 to 2 foot waves, and gentle, calm, no undercurrent or a shore break. So when we got out there and I was with my daughter to push her into her first wave, the wave picked her up and she immediately purled and fell forward and got tumbled underneath the water a little bit, and it really spooked her. And she came up visibly frightened, and I had to convince her to get back out there. And I was worried that she wasn't going to even want to try it again, and I couldn't believe that her first wave was a failure. So I had all these doubts going through my mind. But she thought about it for a second and was like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm over it. I can do this." And so we got right back out there, and I was extremely proud. And the next wave, when I pushed her in, it went very smoothly. She got to her feet a little slowly, but when she was up, she was stable and rode the whole entire wave. Very nice, graceful, with a little bit of style. And she had a safety stance with her butt out and her arms widespread and her knees bent. And she rode it probably 20 yards all the way to the shore. And she just immediately right there stepped off onto the shore and broke into this emotional dance, this exuberant dance. I was so proud. The dance just made me smile. It summed up who Ryan is. She's authentic, genuine, emotional, and just a happy, good kid. And I couldn't have been more proud to be a part of that first surfing experience with her.
So I took my son Zach on our first surf trip together to San Sebastian, and when he got up on a surfboard for the first time, he rode it all the way into the shore, and he jumped off the board into the water and popped out just absolutely elated. And me being out in the ocean, kind of in the ocean looking in on him, I related immediately to the feeling that he had when he rode his first wave, because it reminded me of when I did it. And I saw him jumping up and down and just had this big, huge grin on his face. And, just thinking back on it now, kind of gives me that same feeling. So it was just a great time as father and son, and it was a really good bonding experience for both of us. After that, we spent a lot of time in the water, and every time you're in the water for any amount of time, you get pretty hungry afterwards. And so we went inside and started looking for restaurants. And we found this little restaurant row, and it had all your typical kinds of restaurants on it that the typical tourist might want to frequent. And we were thinking about going to one of these restaurants, and then we see this little tiny shack. I'd call it a shack, and it was called Benito's Shack. And it just kind of caught our interest because it was so different than anything else that was around it. And so we decided, hey, maybe that's a reason to go try this place out. So we go into Benito's Shack, and we sit down together as father and son and as friends, and we share a meal together. And after you've been in the water surfing for a long time, good food tastes great, and great food tastes just absolutely, phenomenal. So we had this meal that was so good together. And it's funny, in my family, my mom used to love watching her kids and her grandkids eat good food. And I think I inherited that from her, because as I watched Zach just kind of devour this really, really good food after a long surf, it was just a great feeling again. So, we had probably just the best day that you could have. Father and son bonding time out in the surf, and then following it up with a great meal. One of the best days ever.
The three friends, Michael, Tim, and Dave, were teaching their children to surf in San Sebastian. When they got out of the water, they celebrated with a meal at Benito's shack. Sono Chef Puccini. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make the meal that they enjoyed. The first thing that I'm going to show you is how to make the filling. You start off with chili serrano and onions, both of which things Benito grew in his garden. You want to make sure that you slice the onion very, very thin. Next, what we'll do is we'll quarter the chiles. The next thing we're going to do is cook our onions and our chiles. We're going to start with a hybrid oil made of fresh avocados and corn grown in Benito's garden. To make the tortillas, we're going to start with masa. Now, Benito's masa was very special because he used fresh corn and fresh onion crystals from his garden. The next thing that we need to do is cut the avocado. This is actually grown by Benito, and he believed that this would be the meat of the dish. I've showed you now the dish that Michael, Tim, and Dave enjoyed at Benito's shack. If you would like to enjoy this dish, please visit Casa, Oaxaca in Santa Ana.